Hello everyone, this is Shadow. Due to copyright restrictions on YouTube, I can't publish many of the audiobooks you love. That's why I've created a special paid service where you can enjoy over 300 high-quality audiobooks from platforms like Webnovel, Pocket FM, Audible, Wuxia, and more. Each novel comes as a one-time purchase, no subscriptions, no hidden fees. After payment, you'll receive full access via Telegram, along with all future updates for that novel. You'll find a wide selection of your favorite genres and titles, always in premium audio quality. Check the full list of available novels in the description. DM me now to get your favorite stories in audiobook form and start listening today. Chapter 870. Dune Conqueror 2. I barely registered his words as I stared at the arena below. My mind went blank, fixed on everything unfolding beneath me. For some reason, I couldn't focus. Images, faint, surfaced in my mind as I watched what was happening below. Everything felt so familiar and unfamiliar. And yet, I can't remember anything. Why? It felt as though I had the answer at the tip of my tongue. But whenever I was close to recalling, my mind would just go blank. What the hell was going on? HM? Did you not hear me? It was a certain voice that pulled me out of my thoughts, my head slowly turning in his direction as my chest constricted slightly. I remained silent, quietly staring at him. The more I looked, the less I saw. I can't read him at all. This was the first time I had ever found myself in a situation like this. Staring at the figure smiling in my direction, my lips parted slightly, almost absent-mindedly, as my eyes continued to linger around his face and body. Blank. He was completely blank inside my vision. I felt absolutely no emotions in his body. And yet, every part of him looked excited. How is this possible? This made absolutely no sense in my mind. How could someone not contain any emotion? He was also strong, but not to the point where it felt despairing. Certainly, he was a level stronger than Leon as I looked down at the arena. His appearance may have changed a lot, but I can tell that's him. So? Are you not going to speak? The air around me suddenly constricted as Tharvek brought his face closer to mine, his deep eyes staring right through me. Despite trying my best to remain calm, my fingers curled at my sides as my jaw locked. But eventually, likely not. I found my words. Likely not? Tharvek blinked a couple of times, his head tilting as his lips pulled even wider. In the distance, the crowd erupted into cheers, signaling the start of the fight as a terrifying explosion echoed from the arena beneath. Yet, I had no time to look at the spectacle as I felt sweat trickle down the side of my face. When you mean likely not, do you mean that there's a chance that they might be able to pose a threat to me in the near future? The sudden question took me aback. In all honesty, I didn't know if Leon could pose a threat to the man before me. As he was right now, very likely not. But a part of me thought that maybe if he went all out, he'd be able to do something. But it looks like I was wrong. Sensing the man's gaze on me, I felt the loud palpitations of my own heart. I don't even know if I'll be able to beat him. You're still not speaking again? Is it hard for you to speak? Is that what it is? In the blink of an eye, Tharvek's face was now an inch away from mine. Feeling his gaze on me, my weight shifted to the balls of my feet as I forcibly curbed my emotions and acted calm. Don't show anything. I mustn't show anything. I was in the perfect position at the moment. Couldn't lose it. Thus, as things stand, I don't see any of them posing a threat to you. Oh? You've changed your answer. The tension didn't ease one bit. Instead, it only heightened as his lips pulled into an amused smile. Did you change it because you're afraid of what I'd do to you? Is that what it is? The back of my neck tingled. For a moment, I imagined something like a cold blade pressing against it, only to realize that it was merely an illusion. Tharvek continued to smile at me, his expression unchanged. His eyes, however, felt strangely empty. There was no clear emotion behind them, nothing I could grasp or interpret. Even now, there was simply nothing there to read. Taking a subtle breath, I found my words again. That's not the case. Am but a mere gate warden. This is my first time witnessing such a spectacle, and thus I don't know who they are. Ah! Tharvek slapped his hands in sudden realization. So that's what it was, right? Right. Of course, you wouldn't know if that's the case. Haha. Of course. He laughed as he clapped, and for just the briefest of moments, I felt the tension around me ease. But that was just for a moment as his smile faded slightly and his gaze fell on the arena beneath as Leon fought against Gorion. In that case, should I have you fight against the winner? Huh? I blinked slowly. My heart jolted as I looked at him. What better way is there to test your skills and whether they can be of any threat to me than having you participate? How about it? Do you want to do it? In fact, you'll even be at a slight advantage since the winner will be mentally worn out. If you can win, it'll bring you great merit. This is an amazing proposal, isn't it? My lips parted beneath the cloth covering my face, but no words came out. Instead, my gaze drifted downward, settling on the battle unfolding below. The fight was fierce. Leon's face was pale, almost drained of color, as he fought desperately against his opponent. Each of his movements carried a sense of urgency, almost as if he was trying to end the fight as fast as possible. No, that's exactly what he's trying to do. But why? Why is he doing that? Is it so that he can preserve his stamina? Whatever the case was, I could see that both sides were evenly matched at the moment, and after a while, I looked back in Tharvek's direction and shook my head. Sorry, but I know my limit. I will not able to win. Tharvek didn't answer. Moving back, he crossed his arms to look at me. His gaze seemed to look right through me, and the more he stared, the more I seemed to be sucked into it. Without even realizing it, I started to clench my fists, ready to strike at any given moment. But eventually, boom! The loud cheers from the crowd shattered the tension as all eyes fell on the arena once more, as a figure fell. Looking back at the arena, I stared at Leon, something close to relief cracking through before I caught myself. He stood not far from his opponent, his breathing extremely heavy. In fact, he looked to be on the verge of passing out, just barely keeping himself together as he raised his head to look at Tharvek, who also turned his head to look in his direction. "Not bad," he muttered, clapping lightly as he looked at Leon. "Your injuries are quite severe, but that is of no importance. Congratulations on breaking into the top 30. Cheers erupted once more as Tharvek tossed the red vial in Leon's direction. "Enjoy the elixir and recuperate." "Oh?" Pausing, Tharvek suddenly looked down. His gaze appeared to stop at Leon's opponent's body. "Gorian, it seems like you've yet to finish him." The noise died down, all eyes falling on Gorian. Although he was passed out, if one looked closely, they'd still see that he was breathing. I looked at Leon, throat tightening. Tharvek smiled. "Finish him." His words, although soft, echoed throughout the entire arena as the surroundings grew quiet, all eyes shifting on Leon. My heart suddenly skipped a beat as I looked at Leon, especially when I noticed that he was standing still. Why is he not moving? Although Leon tended to be rather soft at times, he knew how to be ruthless when the situation demanded him to. And yet, he stood completely still, not moving at all, as his gaze lingered on Gorian's body. "You're not going to finish him?" Tharvek's voice echoed again, but this time, his words weighed more heavily as any lingering noise around the surroundings faded completely. From the corner of Leon's mouth, I noticed blood faintly trickling down his chin. But just as Tharvek was about to speak again, a soft voice beat him to it. "That's enough." All attention fell on the man standing on the opposite side of the arena, his expression calm as he stared in Tharvek's direction. "There's no need to push the situation any further." "Ah!" Tharvek blinked his eyes, a small laugh escaping his lips. "What could you mean by this, Elder? Everyone here knows the rules. For one to win, they must kill their opponent. Those who are defeated have no say in their life. The rules have never stated that. The rules merely state that the winner can decide the fate of those they defeat." "Ha ha ha." A long-winded laugh escaped Tharvek's mouth as he stared at the elder. He looked to be extremely amused as he sat back in his chair, his white robes fluttering beneath him as he looked at Gorian's body on the floor. Eventually, "Well, I don't like it." He turned his attention towards me. "You do it." "Oh, finish what he can't finish." "What?" I stared at the man in front of me with a blank expression. Yet again, there was simply nothing there. Nothing I could catch or hold on to. What was he trying to achieve by having me kill the person beneath? Was he doing this in order to fight against the elder in the distance? Just what was his goal? It hadn't even been that long since I had met him. And yet, I already started to feel a deep sense of apprehension towards him as his voice reached my ears again. "So?" I swallowed quietly, looking at the arena beneath before taking a step forward. To be honest, I wasn't even sure if I should go through with it. But after seeing him throw the vial toward Leon, I knew this was my best chance to figure something out. That's why, after a brief moment of hesitation, I jumped down and landed in the arena. The moment I did, I felt the gazes of everyone present directed at me, including Leon as he looked at me. In that brief moment, something flashed across my vision. An image. One that I felt was vaguely familiar as I looked down to see blood linger around my shoes. Or at least what I thought was blood as the moment I blinked. It all faded. "What is the meaning of this?" The elder's voice echoed throughout the arena, causing me to freeze where I stood. I could have resisted it if I wanted to, but I held back, choosing not to draw any unnecessary attention to myself. Carry on. Tharvek's voice followed, alleviating all of the pressure that was condensed on me. It looks like there's some sort of power struggle between the number 1 ranked and the elder in the distance. I took note of the entire situation as I had no choice but to move forward. Finally coming to a stop in front of Gorian's body, my head raised slightly to meet Leon's gaze. Our gazes interlocked for a brief moment until I eventually raised my foot and stomped down. Bang! Blood spilled in all directions the moment I acted, Leon's face flinching as he looked at me, his eyes widening in shock. Honestly, I felt like shit for doing this. I didn't know the man and I simply killed him like this. But I had no choice. I had to do this to carry on with my role. In a way, it was also to ensure my own survival. This was also for him. I realized rather quickly that Tharvek was no normal person. It wouldn't do Leon any good to earn his ire. But of course, how dare you? The same couldn't be said for me, as I looked up to see the elder glaring in my direction while Tharvek laughed behind me. Good, good. He clapped several times, making his joy known to the arena. That's my guard for you. That's my guard. I like it. Chapter 871. Dune Conqueror 3. Leon's gaze continued to linger in my direction as I shook my feet slightly, trying to get rid of the blood that had attached to them. Honestly, the way he looked at me bothered me. Something within my chest felt unsettled the more I felt his gaze. I couldn't quite explain it, but something in my chest seemed to burn. I was angry, but it was strange. This anger, it ran deeper than I expected it to as I stared at Leon. Does he not understand the reality of our current situation? Why is he so hung up about not killing? If we don't do this, then either one of us will be targeted. There'd be a very good chance that we die too. This is very excellent. As Tharvek's voice continued to echo across the arena, I felt the weight of the elder's glare from afar. When I glanced in his direction, the intent in his eyes was clear. He looked as though he wanted to tear me apart where I stood, held back only by Tharvek's presence. This is how things are done here. Those who step into this arena do so with their lives on the line. I was no exception. The moment you enter, you must be prepared to die. But do not fear it, for death is nothing but a badge of honor. It means you have chosen to die by your own will, rather than at the whims of fate. Tharvek's words made the place erupt in cheers as the spectators stood, shouting at the top of their lungs while chanting his name. Tharvek! Long live Tharvek! The arena shook under the shouts. Tharvek basked in the glory as he extended both hands and closed his eyes. He looked to be savoring the cheers. But I still don't feel anything from him. He was still completely blank in my eyes. Why could I not read him at all? What in the world was going on? Did he simply have no emotions? Enough! It took a single shout to bring the festivities to a halt, the noise cutting sharply through the air. One by one, heads turned toward the elder. His long white beard trembled slightly as he raised his hand, exposing his thin arm as his sickly fingers extended, and he pointed directly at Tharvek. This is a place of honor, not something for you to taint with your nonsense. Cease this at once and allow the rites to proceed. Haha, of course. Of course. Tharvek looked at me and I instantly understood. Giving Leon one last glance, I jumped back up to where he was as he greeted me with a large smile, his hands coming down to pat me on the shoulders. Good, good. I like you quite a bit. You'll make a fine guard. He then looked at the commander who brought me here. You've done an excellent job. You may leave and go back to your work. I am glad I was able to satisfy you. Bowing down, the commander left, leaving me with Tharvek and the few other guards that he brought. So? Tharvek spoke amidst the sudden silence that took over, his eyes lingering over the arena beneath as Leon turned around and proceeded to leave. Do you think he'll be a threat to me? No, I answered truthfully, as he was right now. He isn't. Why? Why did he do that? Coming out of the arena, one had to walk through a long, dark corridor before reaching the pillar that led back down to the lower levels. The entire way, Leon couldn't help thinking about the situation and Julian's actions. Why did he do that? Does he not know that Gorian has a family? He's got several children, each one younger than 10. Now that he's gone, what's going to happen to them? I left him alive because of that, but what now? Why did he do that? Leon's lips quivered as he walked back. He didn't even know where he was going or what he was doing. He just mindlessly walked, his thoughts drifting back to the fight as he coughed from time to time, his injuries only getting worse. By the time he snapped out of it, he found himself standing in front of a familiar residence. That was a good fight, and waited for him at the door alongside Evelyn, Aoife, and the others. They were all looking at him with frowns as Aoife spoke. That was Julian, wasn't it? Leon remained quiet, but his silence was enough confirmation as inside. He hasn't shown up in several months, And the first thing he does when we see him again is kill your opponent. It doesn't get any more like him. But why? Leon looked up. Why did he kill him? What even was the point in that? Does he just not know that he's got a family? Does he not? He probably did it to protect himself and you. Kira suddenly cut Leon off, prompting his face to freeze. Kira continued. From the looks of things, you were being targeted by that number 1 guy. What was his name again? Tharvek. Evelyn softly spoke. Ah yes. Kira nodded. That guy. He was setting his eyes on you. Had you not killed him, he would have most likely have started making your life much harder. That guy. He doesn't give me good vibes. To that, Leon had no words to reply with. In truth, he understood that part. He also understood that he was no match for him. There was something about him that felt like a massive wall that he wouldn't be able to reach even if he wanted to. But I'm sure he could have been spared. Though his words came out in a whisper, everyone heard them as they all fell silent. Glancing at one another, Evelyn was the one to speak this time. Why do you care so much? The way Evelyn looked at Leon was complicated. You weren't like this before. No, you were, but not to this extent. Why? Do you care so much about people that you've never met before? Why? Even Leon wasn't so sure. However, if he had to think of a specific moment, it was when he first entered the city and saw the state of the place. He thought back to the people below and the way they lived. He also thought about the Namen, people who sold themselves to provide some income for their families, and how others had to fight desperately just to survive. It was a combination of a lot of things, but he hated it. He hated everything that he was seeing. Everything that this city symbolized. He hated it. He wanted to change it. I guess it's because I'm stubborn by nature. Offering the others a half-hearted smile, Leon walked back into the residence under their collective gazes. Honestly, he didn't expect them to understand him. He thought that maybe Julian would, but it was clear that he probably also wouldn't understand. That's why he had to carry on. He felt that the only way to make people understand would be by winning more. The more he won, the more he'd be able to change things. Yeah, I've got to win more. Sitting down on his bed, Leon took out a certain vial and quietly stared at it. To be more precise, he tried to feel the rune hidden within the blood before uncorking the cap and eventually downing the blood at once. Closing his eyes, he began to feel the rune. His injuries began to rapidly heal. Win. I've got to keep winning. The ranking battles continued for several hours. Standing behind Tharvek, I kept my position, not moving a single muscle. Despite my strength, after a while, I began to struggle to hold still as the heat got to me. Sweat pooling down the side of my face beneath my clothes. I've been here for several months, and I've yet to get accustomed to this heat. The funny part was that the stuffy clothes that I wore were supposed to make things easier for me. They didn't. Thankfully, the battle soon came to an end as Tharvek leaned back on his chair, letting out a satisfied yawn before standing up and shifting his attention back towards the other guards and me. That was fun, wasn't it? He said this, and his face seemed to agree with him, but yet again, I felt absolutely nothing from him as he remained blank before my very eyes. I saw some very decent fights today. Hopefully, I'll be even more entertained in the upcoming ones. Laughing, he began to walk away from the area. I looked around before following him as we walked down a flight of stairs and headed towards an unknown area. Step. Step. Appearing in a large corridor, the even sound of our steps echoed throughout as none of us made a single noise. We just followed in silence while trying to understand where he was trying to lead us. Arriving before a certain door, Tharvek came to a stop as he looked at us. From this moment forward, the 5 of you are going to be my guards. Although I trust the commander's eyes, I would like to see for myself just how strong each one of you is. But before that, take this. He tossed each of us a round object. A pill? Yes, this looked like a pill. Its shape was smooth and rounded, its dark red color almost glossy. Take the pill. Don't worry, it won't harm you. In fact, you can say that this is something good for all of you. You'll understand once you take it. The guards next to me didn't hesitate and brought the pills to their mouths, swallowing them in one go. Their lack of caution threw me off as I looked in their direction, the pill still in my hand. Because of their actions, all attention focused on me as I cursed under my breath. Shit, you're not going to take it? Yes. Seeing my current situation, I had no choice but to follow along as I popped the pill into my mouth and swallowed. The moment I swallowed the pill, I felt an immediate cooling sensation filter into my body, and I was surprised to see the mana inside my body increase. This? My surprise didn't last long, however. With that small addition in mana, I also felt something else. Something a lot more sinister as I pursed my lips. Yeah, I should have seen this coming. There's no way he'd give me something that good with no reason. Nevertheless, I didn't panic. Instead, I grew a little excited as I finally found even more leads. This is the same exact thing that was happening in the Remnant South. Good. All of you have taken the pills. There will be more to come in the future if you perform well. Opening the door and exposing the room's interior, he beckoned us in. Now, let's proceed with the next step. There's no need to worry. I will make sure things won't be too hard on you. He laughed, his warm voice reaching our ears as he walked in. Well, what are you waiting for? Follow me in. Chapter 872. Dune Conqueror 4. Overwhelming. That's how I described Tharvek. Staring at him as he stood completely still, his white robe fluttering faintly while his hands were clasped behind his back. I swallowed quietly as I pushed myself up. Well, not bad, I guess. For obvious reasons, I had no choice but to hold back. But even then, I probably didn't need to hold back. The results would have been the same unless I used my emotive magic and curse magic. No, would emotive magic even work on him? The more I interacted with him, the more I started to doubt it. He was still completely blank in my eyes. You. Feeling his gaze, I raised my head to meet his gaze. He smiled. You were pretty good. Thank you. I tried to sound tired and worn, which I was to some extent, as I brought myself up. Tharvek continued to smile while looking at me. I thought he was going to say a few things to me before letting me go, but the moment I brought myself up, I felt a sudden change in his expression. You're holding back. My heart skipped a beat. Nevertheless, I pretended to be oblivious. I can tell that you're pretty strong. I can easily tell when someone is strong. You're pretty strong. But you're holding back. I can see it. Tharvek stepped forward, his empty eyes focused on me. You may not realize it, but I can see how you look at me. I can see the defiance in your eyes as you look at me. You're thinking, calculating. What sort of? You think that you can defeat me. Tharvek laughed. Then, bang. Work. At speeds that I could hardly react, I felt a powerful fist land against my stomach. The pain was intense, forcing me to clutch my stomach with both hands as I stumbled onto the ground, gasping for air. Grabbing the ground, I looked up. Tharvek stared at me from above. You're a beast. His voice quietly echoed across the space as he raised his foot and pressed it against the back of my head, forcing it down. Bang! Pain engulfed my forehead as he smashed it down. I didn't scream. Having dealt with pain my entire life, I knew how to handle this much pain. But the issue at hand was the boiling rage that I felt within my chest. Should I just kill him? There's no one here besides the guards. Should I just fucking kill him? For just a fraction of a second, the thought surfaced inside my mind. However, I was quick to shut the idea down. Even if I could kill him, the commotion would just be too grand. I'd no doubt attract the attention of Dawn. I wasn't worried about Tharvek, but I was worried about Dawn. You're a patient one. Tharvek's voice drifted from above as he raised his foot again. I clenched my teeth, waiting for him to strike me again. But that attack never came as Tharvek moved back. Well, I don't mind a strong one as my guard. He chuckled, his hands interlocking behind his back as I raised my head to look at him. You're probably thinking, why am I not punishing you further? But there's really no need for me to do so. You've already taken what I've given you. You're already in my grasp. Unless you want to die, you can try to defy my commands. I glared in his direction. Since he thought of me as defiant, I had to act the part. Inwardly, I was a lot calmer. So that's what he's betting on. I felt more relaxed. He probably assumed that my body was corrupted, and it was to some extent, but I was different compared to the past. I knew how to handle it now. I knew how to remove the outer energy from within my body, or at the very least, contain it. Get up. With his words drifting once more, I forced myself up. Touching my forehead and feeling something wet, I pulled my hand back to see streaks of blood across my fingers. In that very moment, something seemed to shift. I blinked. The air suddenly felt more stale, and my movements grew stiff as I slowly raised my head, noticing the world around me had slowed significantly. Blinking again, the surroundings underwent even more changes. The very space around me seemed to elongate in both directions, and when I saw my surroundings starting to change, I understood. A vision. Was experiencing a vision. Swoosh! All of a sudden, the world shifted completely as my vision turned completely dark. I lost track of all of my senses, only for the strong stench of blood to fill my nostrils a moment later. After which, I started to hear screams and wails. Help! Police help me! Hell! Me! They sounded desperate. A strong heat followed, and when I finally managed to catch a glimpse of my surroundings, my breath came to a complete stop as a familiar city came into view. The walls lay in ruin as monsters poured in from every direction, their roars and shrieks filling the air. Above it all, a massive creature loomed, its presence so overwhelming that it made it hard to breathe, descending from the sky as it tore through the city, ripping apart buildings and sending entire sections crashing down in clouds of dust and debris. Below, people fought desperately amid the chaos, their cries drowned out by the destruction as blood and torn flesh were flung across the streets, painting the ruins in grim, violent streaks. Ah! Screams followed from all sides as I felt my feet sink into the sand, my body slowly moving away from the city. Moving away from the city, I seemed to be carrying something on my back. And when my head finally turned, I caught sight of a familiar face. Noelle. My heart nearly leaped from joy. Suddenly, everything started to make sense as I felt delighted in my heart. I did it! I saved Noelle. From the very start, this had been my goal. I had thought long and hard on a way to rescue him, and while the plan in my mind wasn't perfect, I knew that it could have worked. And it did. Ha ha. Had it not been for the fact that I was merely a spectator, I would have most likely laughed. But my laugh didn't last long as my steps came to a sudden stop, and a figure appeared in the distance. Why you? Her voice was hoarse, and her entire body was in tatters. I struggled at first to grasp her identity, given how disheveled she was, but soon enough, her face became clear to me. Kira? Why, you? Kira. My voice drifted out smoothly. I've managed to accomplish my task. We can finally return. That's all you have to say? Kira remained where she was, her expression shifting through different shades as thin black veins began to form beneath her skin, spreading faintly across her face. I felt my brows furrow as my lips opened. Learn to control your emotions. You're starting to turn. Ha! My words only served to make her even angrier, as even more veins began to appear. You've really changed. Changed? Do you not see what's behind you? Do you not see what you've done to all those people? My mind drifted back to the scene, to the numerous people who fought against the monsters and the screams. To achieve your goal, you've let so many people die. My brows furrowed once more. I didn't take you for a sentimental one. My voice felt cold, so cold that it almost didn't seem like me. Ha! Kira laughed again, her body trembling before she fell back into the sand. Did Leon's death affect you that much? What? All of a sudden, images flashed across my vision. Cheers. Blood. A sword. A figure standing above the blood. You know, you could have most likely saved him. It's just that you didn't. He was starting to get in your way. In your way to save him. Wait. 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 Leon tried his best to stop you. He tried his best not to let you spiral. But as if a switch had been flipped, you stopped caring about anything else. Be it his life or the life of the people that exist within this place. You cared nothing for it. Kira leaned her head back against the sand, her face completely pale as her eyes started to turn completely dark. You've become exactly what you described the gods to be. Her lips quivered. A monster. Her voice drifted in the air, echoing loudly inside my ears. In that moment, time seemed to come to a complete standstill as all noise ceased and the vision paused. Despite this, my mind remained blank, my thoughts drifting back to the situation. What did she? I could hardly make sense of what she said. No, I couldn't believe it. This was the future? Impossible. I immediately tried to deny it. There was no way. Well, this is an interesting sight. My entire mind stiffened as the voice drifted through the air. Though I wasn't in control of a body, it felt as if I could hear my own heartbeat echoing in my chest. A figure appeared close to me, quietly observing everything with an amused, almost knowing smile. He stood next to Kira, quietly observing her features before bending down to get a better look as his lips pulled into a smile. This is one of the Calamities? Standing before me, his features were obscured, a dark fog veiling half his face and leaving the rest barely visible. But even with his features hidden, I knew who he was. That voice, that poise. Cithras. As if sensing my thoughts, Cithras slowly turned his head, and our gazes met. In that moment, his lips quivered before a smile spread across his face as he shifted his gaze between me and the figure on my back. Well, he started clapping all of a sudden as I felt the air around me suddenly constrict. Clap, clap. You did it. You've rescued Noelle. He sounded genuinely happy for me as he clapped. But I knew that it was all fake. He wasn't happy. In fact, I couldn't even tell what he was feeling as he shifted his attention behind me, towards the city as he pinched his chin. In the end, he just laughed. You never change, Emmett. His voice was filled with amusement. Even when your mind is sane, you never change. What? To you, no life matters besides that of your brother. That's why I am not scared of you. The past is repeating itself. What you've done to us. You're now doing it to them. Torin's voice grew lighter. You're not fit to be a god of emotion. You're too much of a psychopath to become one. Chapter 873. Dune Conqueror 5. Torin's words thundered inside my mind as I looked at him. Me? A psychopath? I wanted to laugh. While it was true that I wasn't sane in the head, when compared to him, I was probably the sanest person on Earth. Past, present, or future, your nature will never change. Torin's calm words drifted through the frozen air. You'll always abandon everything for the sake of your brother. This scene that you're seeing is not much different from what you've done to us. The 5 of us. Torin smiled as he muttered. Really, it's really funny to see everything play out just like it did in the past. In the end, you'll never change. That's bullshit. The words escaped my lips smoothly. I didn't even think before speaking. Staring at Torin, I just felt the need to rebuke him. I'm not like you. I can see that what is happening is wrong. That's why I'll make sure it doesn't happen. I didn't want a future like this. I wasn't going to let Leon die. Absolutely no way. Even though I wanted to save Noel, I didn't plan on saving him at the expense of the others. He was absolutely wrong in this aspect. And it's not like the visions are set. I've always changed them, so I can change this too. I love your confidence. Torin laughed in amusement. However, I've seen it before. I know you just as much as you know yourself. You're selfish. I opened my mouth, but the words never came out. No, something did come out. You're not much different. You speak as though you care about the people, but the way people live under your rule. You don't care about them. You're just as selfish as I am. But at the same time, try to paint yourself as some sort of savior. Torin's obscured features shifted slightly beneath the dark fog that covered his face. I hate you. His tone grew monotone as I felt a certain coolness wash over me. Although his words carried no emotion, I could feel the hatred hidden within those cold words of his. It was powerful. Powerful enough to make my mind tremble. Just look behind you. Look at those people. Those right there are the very same people that you've abandoned. My eyes drifted to the city. To the people who were dying and screaming. Had you forgotten about Noel, we could have all lived well. The people here would have lived better, and we would have even been able to live outside. None of this would have happened. You're selfish and you know that yourself. But I'm not here to talk about morality. We both know we've long since lost the will to speak of it. To that, I couldn't say anything. But none of that matters at this point. In fact, I'm rather interested in seeing it. Will you really be able to change this fate? All of a sudden, Torin paused, his eyes turning white for the briefest of moments, after which the smile on his lips pulled further. I just had a vision. That was all he said. However, that was enough to unsettle me. What did you see? The next possible outcomes. Chuckling, he covered his lips. In the end, I wasn't wrong. No matter what you do, you'll fail. Something pressed against my chest as I looked at him. I felt a deep sense of unease crawl at the back of my mind as I looked around me, from Kira's face to her words. Eventually, I even looked in Noel's direction. This future, you can't stop it. I shook my head, not falling for his words. He's trying to fuck with my mind. I know he is, and he was doing a very good job at it. Looks like you don't believe me. Torin smiled, but he didn't say anything else. Instead, he squinted his eyes while trying to get a better look at me. I'm more curious about something else, to be honest. Which version of you is this? Through the fog, he probably struggled to see my real figure. He didn't know which version of me it was. Are you the Emmett from the past? Emmett from the future? Or the Emmett that returned after I've finally gotten rid of him? My breath held. What? He laughed. Did you really think I wouldn't know about the fact that you aren't dead? He shook his head. You underestimate me too much. No, rather, I've experienced this so many times that I know that I can't kill you. You'll just come back one way or another. I still try, though. Shrugging his shoulders, he sighed. To be honest, it's a real pain in the ass. There are already so many things that I have to take care of. And with you constantly showing up out of nowhere, forcing me to divert my attention to the important matters, I find it to be really troublesome, you know? I also found it troublesome whenever he tries to kill me. And it's not like I can leave you alone, either. You need me after all. HM? What was this guy? Should I interfere or not? This looks like Veltrus's territory. Torin looked around, taking note of everything, including the city in the distance. His words immediately made my expression turn heavy. If he really interfered, then, right? Dawn should be here. I think he should be more than enough to handle this. Then again, it's not like I can move. Torin sighed again, scratching the side of his face as he mumbled, How troublesome. How troublesome. But I do feel like interfering. Maybe I should. Yes, I will. Or not. He looked really torn, but the more he spoke, the more unsettled I felt. From the looks of things, he seemed to be playing with me. He made it sound as if he was going to come, only for him to change his mind before eventually saying, "No, maybe not." However, I knew that this could very well be just a lie. He could just be saying it so that I'd let my guard down. "Well, I guess it isn't worth it. Not that it matters." Torin laughed. The black fog around his body consumed him entirely, and he faded completely from my sight, leaving me at a complete loss. Huh? He left? Just like that? What? Why? Why did he do this? Is he really just going to leave me like this? My mind scrambled. Suddenly, I started to think of several things. Was he going to come directly? Was that why he just left? Or was it because he had seen the future? Was he that confident that I was going to fail? No, that makes no sense. Torin of all people should be aware of the fact that the future in the visions wasn't set. And yet, why was he so confident? Why? This makes no sense. Does he really think I'll act as he expects me to? Or is he just going to show up? Without even realizing it, I started to lose my cool. All sorts of thoughts drifted through my mind in that moment. Was this his goal? Was his goal to rattle me? Shit. He had succeeded. I was rattled. At the same time, the frozen time began to move again. Sound rushed back all at once, screams filling my ears, as the oppressive heat of the desert surged over me, wrapping around my body like a suffocating wave. Kira's body remained on the ground as she stared emptily at the sky. Huh? But what left me stunned was something else. It was the very fact that I could move. What? I looked down at my hands, watching as they twitched and moved at my command. There was a brief lag, but it was there. How is this possible? This was the first time that something like this had ever occurred. No, that's not what's important. I looked at Kira, my lips opening very slowly. How? The words did come out, but just barely. This wasn't all I wanted to say. I forced every muscle that I could control as I continued to try to speak. How did I? My entire body tingled as I tried my best to get the words out. Yet, no matter how hard I struggled, only a few words managed to get out. Thankfully, it was enough. How did Leon die? Kira's laughter echoed for a brief moment after as she looked at me. You're asking me this when you're well aware of it yourself? Kira shook her head, her pupils now completely black as the very air around her began to shift and distort. At the same time, I noticed the world around me starting to warp, the edges of my vision blurring more with each passing second. The noise started to fade, and so did the heat. Not yet. I screamed inside my mind, trying to force my focus on the vision that was about to fade. I need to know the answer. Not yet. You really don't care, don't you? To even go as far as... Kira's words started to fade as I strained every part of me to listen. Just a little more. Dune. The world turned completely black, and the whisper of a few words just barely reached my mind. Conqueror. Light filtered across my vision as my eyes snapped open, and a white-robed figure stood in front of me. His languid and lazy expression fixed on me as he smiled. It seems like the little defiance in you has faded a little bit. Good. I like that. With a laugh, he patted me on the shoulders while looking at the others behind me. Now that I've gotten a good idea of what your strengths are, I feel a lot more reassured with your presence. As most of you know, this is a highly coveted position that I have. Many enemies try to bring me down at every turn. Although I've managed to fend them off for now, it doesn't mean that I'll be able to do it forever. That's why all of you are important. You're here to take the fall for me when it matters. His words echoed softly across the room, however. His words barely registered inside my mind as I stood on the spot, a constant ringing sound echoing inside my mind as my thoughts drifted to the moments that led up to this. To the vision. Dune Conqueror. I raised my head, looking at the man who stood in front of me. This was the nickname that he was given. Thinking about Leon and how he was challenging the rankings, my heart suddenly sped up. He dies fighting Tharvik. Having witnessed his power, I knew that Leon couldn't beat me. I have to stop him. I have to tell him to stop. Yes. In order to ensure his survival, he had to quit. Chapter 874. Restless, 1. I thought that once I'd become his guard, I'd have some time to myself. However, the truth was far more cruel than that. I might be exposed to danger at any given second. I need you all to be alert at all times. Make sure no issues arise. He didn't even give us one day off. The entire time, we had no choice but to guard him. I spent several days like this. Each day, I grew more and more restless. Is he here? Could he have already arrived? Damn it, I need to hurry up. The only time that I would have for myself was the few hours that he would grant us in order to get some sleep. But even that was relatively short. To make matters worse, It seemed like sneaking out during such a time was impossible. I wasn't certain of it, but I had an inkling that he was tracking all of my movements in some sort of way. Not only that, but it almost felt as though he had eyes and ears everywhere. In a way, it was creepy. In such a way, my routine became fixed. Wake up, escort him around, oversee the ranking battles, handle a few other minor tasks, then go and get some sleep. By accompanying him every day, I was able to memorize his entire schedule, and the only time when I wasn't able to keep track of his movements was the time frame when I was sleeping. Even after a few days have passed, I still don't know how he's managed to get his hands on Noel's blood. How is he connected to Dawn? The sense of restlessness only grew. Every day, every hour, I'd start thinking about Torin's words. Anxiety welled up within me as I thought about the vision. Leon's death, Kira's turn, and Torin's words. In the end, I wasn't wrong. No matter what you do, you'll fail. You can't stop it. How troublesome. How troublesome. But I do feel like interfering. Maybe I should. Yes, I will. Or not. Biting my lips, I tried to calm my rapidly beating heart. However, regardless of what I did, my heart just refused to settle. Especially when I thought about the possibility of Leon dying or Torin coming. What would I even do if he came? He's fucking with my mind. He's not coming. He's fucking with me. I tried to lie to myself. I tried to tell myself that there was no way for him to come. However, I knew that I was just lying to myself. Opening my eyes, I blankly stared at the ceiling of the small room that I was in. Despite my best attempts at trying to sleep, it looked impossible. Blinking a couple of times, I looked around. The room was fairly small, containing just a bed and a wardrobe. The air was dry, and as I sat up, I looked at my hand. It was covered in sweat, just like my body. Ha! My breath came out rather shaky as the room remained dark. I've got a couple of hours. Taking a deep breath, I put on my clothes while standing up. At the same time, I activated Lament of Lies and blended with my surroundings. After remembering Tharvek's entire schedule, I knew that this was the only time possible for him to acquire the items related to Noel. I'm worried that he might know that I'm leaving, but I don't really have a choice. The situation was urgent. Not only did I not know if Torin had arrived, but I also needed to warn Leon about the current situation. I had to tell him that I had a vision and that he needed to give up on the ranking battles. I was sure he'd understand. Activating Mana Sense and the 5th level of emotive magic, I looked and scanned around me. There were a couple of people monitoring my room from the outside, but outside of that, there didn't seem to be anyone else. I tapped my foot against the ground, targeting the figures scattered around me. The sever. At the same time, I dashed out of the room. Blending with the buildings, none of the people were able to detect me at all, especially when I had completely severed their sense of hearing. No, it wasn't just that. I had completely severed their sense of hearing and sight of me. This was the new spell that I had managed to upgrade. Advanced type spell, Curse, Severance. Not only could I sever someone's senses, but now, I could sever specific things from their minds. In this case, I severed their hearing, smell, and sight of me. In a way, it almost acted like a watered-down version of Eye of Existence. All that mattered was that it worked as I moved away from my building and navigated through the 3rd level. As opposed to the 1st and 2nd levels, the 3rd level was a lot smaller. However, unlike the previous levels, the 3rd level had nothing obstructing the very top, allowing one to have a full view of the gray sky. The pale white sun hung motionless in the gray sky, its light dull and lifeless as it cast a suffocating, unrelenting heat over everything below, pressing down like a heavy weight. The buildings on the 3rd level were a lot fancier, and the number of people who were present was also a lot less. However, I could tell that each person was incredibly powerful. Despite my extreme caution, each step felt as though I were walking on eggshells. Just one mistake, and I was done for. Ah, fuck. The sense of restlessness within me grew. How are you feeling, Leon? I saw that you won your fight. Are you tired? I am fine. Leon's voice came out hoarse as he answered Kira. She stood by the doorframe of his room, her hands crossed. Looking at his pale face and his slightly blue lips, Kira didn't believe him at all. However, despite wanting to say something to him, she closed her lips and decided to step to the side. Leon merely glanced at her before walking back to his room. His strides were calm, but one could see the tiredness in them as he walked past Kira. Take care of yourself. Though she whispered the words, Leon still managed to catch them as he closed the door behind him. Clank! Closing the door behind him, Leon froze, his body going rigid as a sharp pain caught his mind. A moment later, he brought a hand to his chest and doubled over, coughing violently, each spasm racking his frame as his breathing grew uneven. Cough! Cough! From the moment the match had ended, he held his cough back. He tried his best not to show any weakness to the others, but it was clear that his body wasn't keeping up with his injuries. This was despite the numerous elixirs that he had received. While they did manage to heal his body to some extent, because he spent most of his time studying the runes that were hidden within the blood, he wasn't able to absorb it properly. For this reason, the injuries started to accumulate. But, T27. Leon clenched his fist. He had finally reached the 27th rank. His body was breaking down, but he could feel it. He was growing stronger by the day. If I can just master the runes, I might be able to defeat the number 1 guy and reach the top. I'm not too far from that. Although the road is still long, I believe that I can do it. I'm sure Julian will be happy when I show my progress to him. Thinking about his progress, Leon felt happy. He suffered a lot, but he felt that it was all worth it. He was also certain that Julian would be happy with his progress. Leon was certain that, at this rate, he'd be useful to Julian. The thought made him happy. You look like shit. A voice suddenly filtered across the room, soft yet familiar, prompting Leon to snap his head up in shock as his entire body tensed. However, the moment he caught sight of the figure that stood in front of him, he stopped. Julian, you're pushing yourself too much. Julian stood in front of Leon, looking around the room before taking a seat. Leon didn't move, his lips pressing together as he stared at Julian. Eventually, Julian spoke. Are you mad at me? I can understand why you'd be mad at me, but I had no choice but to do what I did. Tharvek is no easy opponent. Had I not done that, you would have been targeted by him. Things would have been even worse for you. I know. Leon silently clenched his fists. He had long understood this. Evelyn and the others had made it clear to him, and it was for this reason that he felt so frustrated. Still. Actually, I've made a lot of progress lately. Regarding the I need you to give up on the fights. Huh. Leon's entire face turned stiff as he looked at Julian. What did he just say? No, but I won't sugarcoat things. If you continue like this, you're going to die. You can't defeat Tharvek. He's too strong for you. I've gone up against him myself, and while I haven't fought him properly, I can tell that you're not his match. Leon's lips quivered. What? Why was he? No, he still doesn't know about his progress. Maybe if he knew about his recent mastery over the rune, he might. You're going to tell me something about your mastery over the rune? It doesn't matter. You'll still lose. Julian suddenly pointed at his temple. Because I've seen it. Leon's breath caught. You're aware of my powers, aren't you? You know who I am, right? Leon opened his lips, trying to say something, but nothing came out. He knew. He was well aware of just who Julian was. I've seen your death. That's why you need to stop. Ah. It was as if the very energy had been drained from his body. Staring in Julian's direction, Leon didn't know what to say. Part of him felt overwhelmingly weak. Yet at the same time, something else lingered at the back of his mind. Something like defiance. After all the work that he had put in, he was just supposed to quit like that? Leon knew that if he fought more and collected more blood, he'd be able to figure something out. He was certain of it. And it's not like the future is set. Julian has changed it many times. Maybe I can too. Leon opened his mouth. Let me. Did you not hear me? Julian's voice came out cold, prompting Leon's lips to freeze. Quit, he repeated. This time, his words felt more like a command than anything else. Leon's heart grew cold. But. There's no fucking but. Julian suddenly stood up, walking towards Leon. I said quit, so you're quitting. Aren't you my knight? Listen to what I'm telling you, damn it. Something about those words rubbed Leon the wrong way as he frowned. I know that, but hear me out first. Let me. Are you fucking deaf? Julian's voice suddenly bellowed through the room as he grabbed Leon by the collar and yanked him forward, pulling his face close to his own. Leon's eyes widened as Julian glared at him, his grip tightening. I've already given you a lot of leeway. Quit. That's an order. Leon stared blankly in Julian's direction. This time, he didn't say anything. He couldn't say anything. He just stared at Julian. That was also when he noticed his eyes. They were shaking. This felt completely different from the usually composed Julian. He seemed completely restless. Just what in the world had him so rattled? Chapter 875. Restless? 2. What happened? Leon just barely managed to get the words out as he looked at Julian. This was one of the few times he had ever seen Julian this rattled. It left him at a complete loss, especially when Julian was usually the one who was always calm. You happened. Julian answered, his tone still cold. What? All you have to do is listen to me. From the start, I was against you participating in the ranking battles. They simply attract too much attention, and the benefits aren't worth it. You didn't listen to me and still did it. I allowed. But I'm now telling you to stop again. You will fail. You will die. Leon stared at Julian with a blank look. From the way he was speaking, it was almost as if he were certain of his own death, of his own failure, and that really didn't sit well with him. How are you so certain of it? Ah shit. Julian covered his face, cursing under his breath as he looked at Leon through the narrow gap in his fingers. You're being really stubborn, aren't you? Does the idea of you not being able to win annoy you that much? Leon swallowed, but he said nothing. He didn't have anything to say because it was true. The very idea of failing was irking him. No, not quite. It was the way he spoke with such certainty that irked him. Why is he so confident that I'll lose? I know that he's strong, but I'm also strong. I know that I'm limited, but if I master the rune, I should be able to win. I am close. How does he not understand that? I get that he saw a vision, but not all visions are accurate. He's explained it to me. They can be changed. I'm sure that. Wake up! Julian's scream tore through the room, startling Leon as his head snapped back up. By now, Julian's face was even closer, and his eyes were bloodshot. He was growing even more restless. Stop thinking about useless things. You're going to die. Do you understand me? You're my knight. Know your fucking place. When I tell you to do something, you do it. I don't want to see a meaningless death. Leon clenched his teeth, but soon lowered his head. That was also the moment the door abruptly opened. Clank. What the hell is going on? What's happening? What's wrong with you, Leon? The figures that had just barged in all stopped the moment they caught sight of Julian. That was also the moment that Julian let go of Leon's clothes and patted his clothes. Good. All of you are here. Calm returned to his voice as he looked at them. I need you all to make sure that he doesn't do anything stupid like participate in the ranking battles. He will die if he continues. This is something that can't be changed. Somehow my words can't get to his head. I hope that you guys can get your words through that thick skull of his. Julian didn't let the others say anything before his figure crumbled on the spot, disappearing from view as silence took over the entire room. It persisted for several seconds until Kira opened her lips. What the hell is he talking about? Her voice was directed at Leon. What do you mean that you'll die? Leon clenched his fists, his jaw clenched tighter than ever. He paused, his gaze drifting towards the window of the room. He's not in the right state of mind. Stupid. 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 The more I thought about Leon's stubbornness, the angrier I became. How hard was it for him to understand that the path he was taking would only lead to his death? I understood that he wanted to prove himself. I also understood that not all visions came true. But so what? Why take the risk? There was hardly any merit to winning at all. If he wanted to prove himself, there were many other ways. He was just being stubborn, and the very thought was pissing me off. Stupid. Stupid. Ah shit. Pausing before one of the buildings on the second level, I leaned my back against the side of the building and covered my face. Feeling just how rough my breath was, I knew that my mind was not in the right state. The vision and Torin's words had left me completely unsettled. They were fucking with my mind, and despite my best attempt at trying to curb my emotions down, I couldn't. Something about what Torin said and showed me felt like they hit close to him. Honestly, for an emotive mage, this was pretty pathetic. But then again, there was a good chance that Torin had used emotive magic on me. Perhaps this was why I was so unsettled. I don't know. Whether it is or not, I'm not going to let the future unfold as it did in the vision. I'm different. Taking a deep breath, I looked to my right and left before dashing towards the pillar. My movements were quick, and with my newfound abilities, I was able to move past the gates with no issues and enter. Having acted as bodyguard for Tharvek for the past several days, I had managed to pick up his mana pattern. Using mana sense, and looking in all directions, I knew exactly where he was. He's in the arena. I didn't know what he was doing there, but this was perfect. Since he was there, this meant that there was no one in his estate. Since I knew where it was, I didn't hesitate to move towards it. Moving back to the third level, I moved in silence while eventually stopping before a massive estate with large gates that surrounded it from all sides. I could feel the presence of several people inside, but I was able to sneak past the gates and them with no issues. Having already been here, I knew the layout quite well. Well, the outer layout. I wasn't all too familiar with everything about the estate since I was limited to a certain area. Entering through the main door, I was greeted by a massive hall, a long flight of stairs stretching upward toward the higher levels. Grand chandeliers hung above, their crystals dim in the low light, while a soft carpet ran across the polished marble floor, muffling any sound. Everything about the place was nothing short of the epitome of luxury and wealth. Yet in Tharvek's absence, It felt hollow. The entire place was eerily quiet as shadows gathered and darkness slowly took over the space. I'm sure that any item here can probably feed the people in the first levels for months. Without thinking too much, I moved up the stairs, my eyes drifting in every direction as I kept mana sense active alongside emotive magic, quietly scanning for any potential person lurking within the place. I sensed nothing, but one couldn't be too careful. There might also be a chance that I won't be able to detect them, so I should remain cautious. With lamentive lies, I hid myself completely. Moving to the second floor, the corridor that greeted me felt endless. I could see no end to it as I continued to walk ahead. This was as far as my memories brought me, not once having gone deeper than this. Step. Step. With the absence of a carpet, my steps bounced off every wall as I continued ahead. I tried to pay no mind to the sound, certain that lamentive lies would hide it, but it still felt loud in my ears as I scanned every single room, trying to determine which one was Tharvek's office. Thankfully, it wasn't hard to find. With the door standing taller and more imposing than the others, I found it rather quickly, and without a second thought, an orb appeared in my mind as I phased right through the door and entered the office. So this is the office. The place was rather well kept. A large wooden desk sat at the far end of the room, its surface worn smooth with use, with a towering bookshelf standing right behind it, packed tightly with rows of books. Papers lay scattered across the desk in uneven piles, some half-stacked and others carelessly spread out. On the opposite side of the desk, several seats were arranged neatly, positioned to face each other. I only observed the room for a few seconds before getting to work. Surely he might have something that might be related to finding Noel. Since he acquires the blood from someone, he should keep something here. I looked through the drawers first. Some were locked, but it was easy for me to open them as I carefully went through each one of them. However, the only thing that I found were just random profiles of other people who were in the ranking battles. Pausing at a certain profile, I gave it a quick skim. Gorian. Status. Deceased. Description. Nobody worth taking note of. There wasn't much in the description. Turning back, I saw a few details about the way he fought, but there was nothing else. I skimmed through other documents, eventually pausing at a certain document. Ryzen. Status. Alive. Description. Decent. Worth taking note of. Entered the city several months ago with several people, of which one of them now works for me as a bodyguard. My expression suddenly changed. Wait, there was more. I'm more interested in his guard. He seems extremely cautious and looks like he wants something from me. I'll play along for now. If my guess is correct, he'll eventually come into my estate and find this file. Bah, thump, bah, thump. Without even realizing it, my own heart started to beat loudly. Just know that from the moment you pick up this file, I'll already be aware. You should look behind you. The text ended there. However, it felt as though my entire body had been submerged in the deepest depths of the ocean as I remained standing where I was. Gradually, however, I turned my head, and that was when I saw it. Well, Tharvek, I'm sure that you shouldn't be here, right? Chapter 876. Restless. 3. Had I been careless? I didn't think so. In fact, I had been extra cautious. I had employed all of the skills that I had available in my arsenal and even hid my traces. And yet, he was able to find out about me. From the paper, it was obvious that rather than me being careless, he knew all about me from the start. Ha! I let out a long breath, putting the paper away. I knew that selecting a random gate warden as a personal bodyguard was too good to be true. He probably did it on purpose. From the start, he knew all about me. He very likely threaded the situation to become this way. This guy, he was scary. There's no need for you to be too worried. I'm just here to have a casual talk with you. Taking a seat on his sofa, he patted the armrest a couple of times before pointing at the seat opposite him. I stared at it in silence before walking towards it and sitting down. Do you know what the hardest part is about reaching my position? He suddenly posed me a question, his legs crossing as he interlocked his hands. Forcing my calm, I answered. Maintaining your position. Haha, it seems like you're aware. Tharvek laughed leisurely, his hand brushing his ashen gray hair to the side as he continued to stare in my way. His posture relaxed. Do you know what's funny? I used to think the exact opposite in the past. I thought that things would become much easier once I managed to crawl my way towards the top. But it turns out that was just the tip of the iceberg. I've had a much harder time maintaining this position than snatching it. The smile on his face faded. All of a sudden, the temperature seemed to drop a few degrees as the tension rose. I'm cautious by nature. If I see something that seems suspicious, I'll get rid of it. Even if they're innocent. My life comes before anything else. This is how I've operated since reaching the top. Nothing escapes my eyes. I know every single person who comes into this city. I know what they've done since entering, and who they were with at the start. I see. Things started to click. I didn't pay much attention to you and your guys at the start, but from the moment your friend joined the ranking battle, I had no choice but to pay attention to them. I pay attention to every single person that enters the rankings. He made sure to emphasize the last part, his voice pausing every word. That's also why I had you become my private guard. The original plan was to use you as some sort of leverage for when your friend and I fought, but after learning about your achievements, I had a change of heart. Unfurling his legs, Tharvek leaned forward a little. I tested you a couple of times, and you never once budged. That's what impressed me the most about you. I know that you're quite strong, but you still somehow held back. That's how I also started to wonder something. For him to hold back this much, what is he trying to achieve? The smile returned on his face as he looked at me. You're here for the elixir, aren't you? I blinked slowly, my heart skipping a beat. He was both right and wrong. I did want the elixir, but not because I was in need of it, but because then I'd be able to find Noelle. That was my goal from the start. What if I were to tell you that there's a way for you to monopolize it? This guy, looking up, I could see that his smile was even wider than before. The elixir is the ultimate symbol of power within the city. I may be ranked first, but I'm far from the most powerful person within the city. I don't like that. I want to be the one to stand at the very top. Tharvek's smile faded slightly. And the only way for someone to reach the very top of the city is to obtain the elixir. That's the moment they truly hold the key to the city. In that moment, I saw it completely. The true face of the man called the Dune Conqueror. That was also the moment I felt the blank slate of his body stir, as if something within it had finally begun to surface. An endless greed. A greed so deep that I found myself at a loss. Joy. But this wasn't quite the green that I was used to. It was a little bit deeper and more twisted. Ecstasy. Or greed. That'd be more accurate. This man is quite something. No, he's lost in his own greed. From the way he spoke, he knew about Dawn. At least, he seemed to be aware of his existence. And yet, he still coveted the blood. In that regard, he was extremely greedy. I had a feeling that he wouldn't stop at the elixir after all was over. Taking a deep breath, I finally got some words out. You want me to help you get the elixir? No. He shook his head. You're going to help me. I raised my brows. He just smiled in return. I can see that you desire the elixir as well. When the time comes, I'll provide you with some elixir as compensation for your help. In the future, you may even request some. But that's as far as my generosity goes. Leaning forward, he stared straight at me as his voice deepened. You also don't have a choice. I'm sure you understand your current position. You can't escape from this place even if you want to. Not when I'm standing right before you. I can always pretend to agree to your terms and run. He suddenly snapped his fingers. All of a sudden, a change occurred within my body. My brows shot up as something extremely cold seeped into me, spreading through my limbs and making every part of me go rigid. My thoughts turned stiff, and the world around me began to wobble. What? Snap. The sensation left as fast as it came as Tharvek snapped his fingers. However, those few seconds were enough to make me sweat heavily as I took deep and heavy breaths. He cleared his throat. There's not much to it. Unless you want to die, you'll have to listen to me. Ha. Holding onto my chest, I lowered my head. However, I see. So he must be related to them. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to control the weird dark energy provided by them. If I dive in deeper, I might be able to find out more about them. Do you understand your situation now? I chose to remain silent. Naturally, I was subjected to another round of whatever that was. Ugh! I let out a groan and acted my part like the award-winning actor that I was. In the end, I forced a glare in his direction before eventually being subjected to another round and finally conceding. It wasn't so hard, was it? He laughed while leaning back against his chair. On the other hand, I remained in my seat, sweat pooling from all sides as I struggled to keep my breathing steady. In the midst of that, his voice echoed again. Just so you're aware, if this isn't enough of a deterrent, I'll kill everyone who came with you at the start. Believe me, I can do that right now with just a thought. I would advise you to be careful. Closing my eyes, I drew a deep breath. Get up. I stood up and looked at him. He was now standing as well, and as he glanced around the room, he clasped his hands behind his back before making his way toward the door. Catching my breath, I eventually stood up and followed him out. Where is he trying to bring me? I remained alert the entire time. I knew that I couldn't trust the man who stood before me. There was a good chance that he was going to use me before throwing me away. Nevertheless, this situation had turned favorable to some extent. If I play my cards right, I might be able to find out where Noelle is faster than originally anticipated. However, the danger is only going to amplify. Step. Step. The sound of our steps echoed through the space as we descended the stairs, eventually reaching the back of the estate. Stopping at the gate, Tharvek stood still, looking ahead in silence. I stood still, not making a single sound while staring ahead. Eventually, a figure appeared at the entrance. I was caught completely off guard by their appearance, unable to tell when they had arrived, as my heart pounded against my chest. Who are they? You're here. A soft, almost whisper-like voice echoed out. For a moment, the figure glanced my way, just long enough to make my chest tighten. A new one? Tharvek smiled. Indeed. My eyes narrowed slightly, trying to make sense of the exchange. However, that was all the two said before they pulled out a wooden crate. Tharvek laughed at the sight, a little too eagerly. Amazing! He was just about to take the crate when the figure stopped him. Tharvek's smile stiffened, if only for a second, as a colder voice followed. Do not entertain useless thoughts. The great sun sees everything. You may use the elixir to reward the best, but that is as far as things go. We've tasked you with taking full control of this space. This will be the last time we'll entertain your greed. The voice faded shortly after, the figure vanishing with it, as if it had never been there at all. A tense silence followed, the kind that pressed in from all sides. It was soon broken by Tharvek, who reached for the crate and lifted the lid. From his tone and the way he moved, he did not seem to mind how he had been spoken to. If anything, he seemed distracted, focused on something else entirely. Have a look. My stomach churned the moment I saw inside the crate. My expression nearly fell apart as Tharvek reached in and pulled out a severed hand. No blood dripped from the cut. The skin looked pale, but everything looked incredibly well preserved. As Tharvek waved the hand lightly, he smiled. Yes, this will do. Then he looked at me. With this, we can begin looking for the one this hand belongs to. Hello everyone, this is Shadow. Due to copyright restrictions on YouTube, I can't publish many of the audiobooks you love. That's why I've created a special paid service where you can enjoy over 300 high-quality audiobooks from platforms like Webnovel, Pocket FM, Audible, Wuxia, and more. Each novel comes as a one-time purchase, no subscriptions, no hidden fees. After payment, you'll receive full access via Telegram, along with all future updates for that novel. You'll find a wide selection of your favorite genres and titles, always in premium audio quality. Check the full list of available novels in the description. DM me now to get your favorite stories in audiobook form and start listening today.